She used to be an actress.
She ever do anything I saw?
I think her biggest deal was she starred in a pilot.
What's a pilot?
Well, you know the shows on TV.
I don't watch TV.
Yes, but you're aware there's an invention called television, and on that invention they show shows.
Yeah.
Well, the way they pick the shows on TV is they make one show, and that show is called a pilot. Then they show that one show to the people who pick shows, and on the strength of that one show, they decide if they want to make more shows. Some get accepted and become TV programs, and some don't and become nothing. She starred in one of the ones that become nothing. Welcome to Couch Pilots, all of my friends. It's the show that dares to fly into the unknown territory of awful television, pilots of the past. My name is Jason, and with me is my 8-track man. It's Captain Philip Restisher. Good evening.
The old 8-track, right?
Correct, yes.
They were big and bulky.
Yes.
They were frail.
Yes.
And they were an inconvenience. But at the end of the day, when you got one in while you're driving, you were listening to Merle Haggard driving down the highway, right?
Hold on, I wanted to play a song.
I've been all around gutter town.
Now that's Merle Haggard, right?
No, that's Billy
the Ray Cyrus.
Billy the Ray.
Billy the Ray. 8-track sucked because they're everything you said, and they didn't hold a lot on there.
No.
And I think there's a thing. Can you not rewind them? You can only fast forward and it starts over. Is that what it was?
Ew, I don't remember.
It's a myriad of mishaps and miscalculations.
And it was huge. They were huge cartridges.
They were about what is that size right there? Like a small greeting card, but as thick as a pack of cigarettes or bigger.
Right. I would say they were probably 6 inches long and about an inch thick.
I've got a
and
few at home.
4 inches wide.
Okay, that's about right.
Coming from a woodworker, that's my measurements.
And you know what? You eyeball that stuff all day. I'll take your word for it. I think what it really was like, what's ridiculous is to bring all my vinyl into the car. What's a way that I can take my music with me?
Sure.
And unfortunately, until cassettes, that was the answer.
Well, we went from hey, I got vinyl, which are big, bulky, and you can't jump around it. And they're like, hey, in my car, I'm tired of listening to the radio stations. Okay, we'll give you these 8-tracks. And then they're like, okay, well, and I have 12 8-tracks, and I have this humongous case in my car. I have to put it in the back of the car because I can't, And they're like, okay, well, we got you tapes. And so we had tapes, and everybody's like, I still have, like, a huge box, and I can't deal with these while I'm driving down the road. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you compact discs. And they're like, well, I can't flip through all the compact discs. And they said, okay, well, we'll make and my brother had one of these, like a 6 CD changer in the trunk. And you're like, okay, but then, so now today, you have an auxiliary cord, you have a phone, and you have digital music like Spotify. I can listen to anything I want with just a touch of a pad.
Even that's outdated. Everything's Bluetooth, syncs to your phone,
Right.
starts immediately when you start your car.
Right.
Anything you want, your podcast, your music, everything under the sun is available for your
We are-
audiobooks.
Yeah, we're on Spotify, by the way.
We are on Spotify. Great. Perfect. I say that because today's show we're talking about is called the Norliss Tapes. And then I called you my 8-track man.
Yeah, and we're talking about a time in 1973. Mm-hmm. So 8-tracks are the thing at this time. So
Yeah,
you made it relevant. That's great.
I don't think they're very popular. I mean, they don't last a long time. They're relevant for probably not even 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe late 60s to late 70s, maybe.
Mid-70s, yeah, for sure.
They're a novelty now. I picked up a player and a big stack of 8-tracks, and I tried to sell them. No one's interested in that.
Oh, no.
You can't give that shit away.
No.
They're awful.
It's cumbersome.
Just like Seven Mary 3 once and only once said. What's going on with you?
Living the dream, right? We're getting ready for Thanksgiving. I'm going to spend time with my in-laws probably.
Yeah, we got a new president.
We have a new president.
You did not end up voting, is that right? Or did you?
That's correct. I did not vote.
Any reason why?
2 reasons.
Okay.
I'm just one person, and my vote, it does not matter. Just one person. 2, I'm not going to vote on something that I'm not deeply educated in. And 3, I'm way too lazy to find out where I have to vote and all that stuff.
I think you could do it on, like, you can mail it in. If you contacted them early, you get a thing in the mail. That's all right. That's all right. You know what? I agree. I think people should not vote if they... First, I mean, if you want to vote, vote. But if for someone to say, I didn't vote because I'm not educated on the issues, I think that's a completely valid reason not to vote.
There's 3 things I don't talk about.
1.
Religion.
2.
Politics.
And 3.
Cops.
Yeah.
So
That's smart.
So if I'm not passionate about something, if I don't know a lot of facts about something, I don't want to skew anything.
Put a lot of misinformation out in the world.
Right. So
That's why you stick to what you do, and that's talking about sexual relations of the past, right?
Well, and to be honest with you, I've kind of like I think I've drifted off of that a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Well, I think you do 250 episodes of a podcast. The chances of that well drying up are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like. There's some that are just like regular ones.
Yeah, just
Right.
sometimes you just got a regular one.
You got to regulate.
Yeah, that's a good song. I voted. I was really. I thought Donald Trump he's most likely going to win. And it looked like it was really going to come down to it, but at the end, it seems like Biden.
It swung big time right at the end.
Yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with people are getting more and more involved politically, and it's such a divide politically. And I think that divide makes people want to go out and vote.
Sure.
And then that coupled with how easy it is to vote with the mail-in stuff, I think that really jacked up the numbers of the amount of people. I think it was north of 150 million people voted.
It's the most ever.
Yeah, that's almost 50% of the population.
Right.
And I think it's more than 50% of the population if you take a look at who's registered to vote, and then everyone under the age of 18.
Sure.
So it's a massive amount of people went out there and did it.
So it took a while. The night of the election, did you watch a whole bunch of stuff or check your phone every half hour?
Well, I've been listening to Tim Heidecker's Office Hours podcast.
Okay.
And I think he really likes doing his podcast. It's a feeling that I don't recognize.
No, not at all.
Said Blake. And he does it once a week, and then sometimes he does extra shows where they're just having like a game night in his studio, and they have a lot, like they have a Zoom thing where there's a ton of people on Zoom, and he talks to people on
Sure.
there, and then he'll have big celebrities on. But he did an election night thing, and he did like a 5-hour episode live streaming, and so I watched like an hour of that, and then I went to my girlfriend's house, who is very much into politics, and we sat there for an hour or two until she was ready to go to bed, and we went to bed thinking maybe Donald Trump won't win again. And the next day it looked like, I don't know. And it wasn't until a few days later. I think it was, I was actually helping my friend Jeff move. He bought a house.
Black Jeff? Mm-hmm. He bought a house?
Yeah. He honestly, I found out that this weekend, I've known him for over 20 years. I found out this weekend is that he only goes by Jeff, oddly enough.
Oh, that's weird.
But he bought a house.
That's great.
And while we were moving, it was announced.
That's cool. I'm glad he bought a house.
And then when we were celebrating, half the people who were helping us move went home. They didn't like the results, so they put the nightstands down and they walked away.
Yeah. That night we watched the speeches from President-elect and Vice President-elect, and my wife shed a tear. She was inspired by it.
You say shed or shit?
Shed.
Okay.
Like a she shed?
Right. She shed a she tear?
And, I guess for me, I was like, well, how much worse could it be?
Than
Right.
it is now?
Yeah. Like, how much, these people, do I agree with everything about them? No. But like you said a couple episodes ago, it's the alternative. It's like this guy is just a fucking idiot and says ridiculous stuff. Is this old man and this mixed woman gonna be on Twitter and on the toilet at 3 a.m? No. So you know what? To be honest with you, more power to him. Let's go.
A few hours after it was announced, Biden spoke, I think about prime time that evening, and like immediately it was like, oh, like of course this is how someone who's in charge of essentially the free world should speak.
Right.
He wasn't boasting anything. He was talking about bringing the country together.
Yeah, he said it doesn't matter if you're red or blue. I'm going to
Or mixed.
I'm going to lead the American people. And which
He didn't say anyone was a loser. He didn't call anyone out for being liars.
He didn't say anything about retards.
It was like oh yeah, that's right. That's how this is how even Republicans in the past, you're like, oh yeah, there's an air of professionalism here that was just completely vacated within the past.
And I think
4
that's
years.
the simplest way to put it. You know, because they're involved too. The simplest way to put it is professionalism. Who in the whole country would you expect to be the most professional? Say it with me. What the president? Sandwich. Right?
Chiz.
I mean,
yes.
So let's just start with that.
Are we still doing this or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's just start with that and see how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes you pick the evil you don't know or the evil you know, and we knew what we got, and I don't know what we're going to get, but I strongly suspect it's going to be a lot better. I by no means think all of our problems are going to go away, and if you become the president of the United States, you've probably done some fairly fucked up shit to get to that position. I'm not fooled by any of that, and Joe Biden was never my top choice, but I'm glad he's there if it came down to those two.
Yeah.
So
him
or Kanye. Right?
Oh, even Kanye is conceded.
He is
No, what? Not conceded. What's
conceded.
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 That's really close.
Well, English language is awful.
Stupid.
Sucks.
I like to speak Australian, mate.
Yeah. You ever think about going to Australia, like on a? Like a vision quest or say you were to take a sabbatical from the show. Would you go to a place like Australia?
I really think I would.
Yeah.
To me, from what I know about Australia, because one of our top listeners, super fan, Dee Dee, she lives in Australia, and she's super awesome. 2, I watch a YouTube woodworker from Australia, and he's positive. Just a good guy, right? He's having a good time. 3, I want to see kangaroos. Like I don't want to get up next to one and try to like have a boxing match. But
a box? What?
Koala. I want to see the animal that is stoned all the time, and everybody says, "Oh, they're cute. They're stoned all the fucking time."
And they're full of chlamydia. They're just party fuckboys.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying anything's wrong with it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just stating the very little I know.
So to me, Australia is like laid back,
Totally chill.
and that's what I need to be, is totally chill and laid back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Would you want to go run out in the bush?
in the bush, the
Aborigines are out there.
No, I don't want to get walk upon some tribe's land or something.
Take a walkabout and end up there.
No, I just want to go. I would say, if you had to pick 3 places in the world you want to go, let's each do one in the order of how you'd want to do them.
Places we've never been.
Yes, that you want to go to.
Okay,
you start. Your top one is.
I never really thought this out, but shooting from the hip, Gay Perry.
All right. I would say my number 1 is Australia.
What part of Australia? New South Wales.
I don't know enough about it to pick a place.
Melbourne.
To be honest with you, if Dee Dee and Barb will let me hang out there, it would save me a lot of money. I'll wherever they're at.
So you would just go live with them.
Well, not live with them. I'm gonna go hang out there while I go explore.
Have a holiday.
Yes, have a holiday.
Go on holiday. There.
Number 2, Jason, where are you going?
Gay United Kingdom.
I would say that the UK is my second most. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I get to see where my grandma lived when she was a child.
That'd be cool, right?
And then go have like
Would you like to go with her?
the worst food in the world.
Or do you want to like not be hindered by an old lady like
No, I would love to go with her
Yeah.
because she'd be like, I'm going to pass away very soon. Here are my memories. Can you rely on my 85-year-old memories? Maybe, maybe not. But now they're your memories,
Right.
and it'll be like a very old game of telephone.
she's like I played football on this field.
She really did see the bombers from World War II fly overhead.
Really?
Yeah. So I think she had like a family farm, and then that was vacated, and she came to the U.S. I think in her early mid-teens. I want to
Wow,
say.
that's cool.
Um,
Number 3.
the UK was 2 for you.
Yeah. 2 for you?
Gay Japon,
What?
Japan, Japon. That's how they say it there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. There's a lot of. I would love to go to Australia too, but given the top 3, Gay Paris, Gay UK, and Gay Japon.
I would think that I would like to go to Japan or China for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love those Asian girls.
And I love weird shit in vending machines.
And you love weird food. And I don't. I would have trouble. But
I mean that's
the only thing that That's the only thing that made it number 3 is I would have trouble surviving nourishment.
I think we can all agree that there are many, many places in the world. So to be in the top 3, you can't be that worried about the food. You can find they have rice. You would eat rice.
To me, it's more about all the hot chicks.
Yeah, but you would eat rice too. So okay, so you think there's a lot of hot chicks in the UK?
To be honest with you, in the UK, I think that I would score big time because I could go through the UK like throughout the lands over like a 2-month period, and I could slay, and like they're too.
Get some regular ones in there.
I'm going from different country to different country, and they're not going to talk to each other, right? It's not going to.
So your reputation wouldn't precede you.
Yes.
You wouldn't have 45 years worth of roots and a sullied reputation.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I would have a lot of sex from girls from Australia. I would think that they have too high of standards, but the UK probably for sure. Asians, I think I could score in Asia too.
Yeah, that was
Eurasia?
that was never really my thought process on picking places. I was thinking, what are some like?
Well, that wasn't the only process I had. The thought process. There's more than just that, but that's just like a bonus. Bonus.
This. That's good. I think that's enough for the opening remarks. Oops.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captains have turned on the fasten seatbelt sign.
That was enough for the beginning, I think. Right?
It's very abrupt. Were you bored?
No,
Okay.
I just didn't want to drag it out too long.
Okay.
We got to keep everyone wanting more. Today we discussed the pilot episode of the Norliss tapes from the year of our Lord 1973. Now that was a great year.
It was a pretty good year. I was -2, which would have made you -8.
That's right.
And the world was in turmoil in 1973, and we're in 75. We're coming out of it a little bit. By the time your
70s.
baby, everything was good. Everybody's happy.
Things I think were getting better in the 80s for sure, but the 70s I don't think was a great time.
You had the Vietnam War.
That was winding
You
down.
had heroin. You had occults.
Right.
And so, I mean, in the 80s, you just had like Cyndi Lauper,
Arcade machines.
Madonna, arcade machines.
Other female pop stars. Right?
Well, Samantha Fox was more like
She was. No, she was
in the 80s.
Yeah.
I saw her live. In concert.
Selena.
Oh, that's the one that died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all dead.
Samantha Fox is not dead.
She killed Selena.
Debbie Gibson in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany.
They're synonymous, right?
That was the early 80s was like the time of the mall bands, right? That's how you got famous.
Basically, they set up a shitty little stage in a mall, and then a bunch of kids come to the mall, and they buy shit, and they buy your shirts, and then they go to Gumballs and buy a handful of candy overpriced, and everyone has a great time.
Yeah.
And then maybe you shoot a music video or two in the mall.
Miss those days.
Yeah. They're not always the good old days. Well, maybe when you're not working, when you don't have a job, maybe just in general,
for sure.
it's the good old days.
It's funny we talked more about the 80s than we did the early 70s.
That's all right. Let's go back to the 70s
In our minds.
so we can properly digest the Norliss tapes. I know we laid down a thick base of the 1980s, but let's dig into specifically November of 1973 so we can properly judge the Norliss tapes.
I think, to be honest with you, in November of 73,
Do you have a memory from this time?
I know about history.
Okay.
I think we, like in central Illinois, we had a huge like snowstorm, like feet of snow. Or was it 76 maybe?
I have no idea, but this is very interesting to me. What made you think of that? How do you know that?
I just know that like there was a couple of times like before I was born and like a year or two after I was born that we had like super heavy snow, like feet of snow.
Yeah.
So
What about feats of strength?
never. It's central Illinois.
Central Illinois.
Hey, what do you think of the new bridge? Have you went past it yet? Have you
Oh,
went
yeah.
over it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have not even gone over it yet.
It's nuts. It's like the same. But this is what I do. I was so happy.
Does it go?
No. No, it was a major inconvenience for me because I would go to Peoria probably 2-3 times a week.
Sure.
And I'd have to go all these other bridges that were, drive through downtown or drive over the McCluggage Bridge and hit every light along the way. Such a pain in the ass. So the first time I went over it, it was November 1st because
Okay, so about a day or two after.
well, it was supposedly opened the October 31st, Halloween. But I went around about 5-6 o'clock and it wasn't open yet. And so I was like, well, that sucks. So I went the next day and I was taking my girlfriend, my daughter, and my niece, and we went to the Halloween store because it was 50% off.
Sure.
So we're going
'Cause
to
you're a
Peoria.
nerd.
Because I'm a nerd. Whatever. You're a nerd. So as we're going over the bridge, I honked the whole way over. I was so excited.
Really?
And they were. I think they were pretty embarrassed.
I've yet to go over it, so
It's fine.
it looks nice.
There's a bunch of lights on it.
From behind Walmart, it looks nice. That's where I saw it from.
Everything's behind Walmart. 1973, November 4th, the Netherlands experienced the first car-free Sunday caused by the 1973 oil crisis. Highways are deserted and solely used by cyclists and roller skaters. I feel like the Netherlands are the Canada of Europe.
Sure.
So November rolls around, it's probably
Chilly.
cold. And
It's
you got
chilly.
cyclists and roller skaters?
Hey, do what you gotta do. I think now that I think about it, it wasn't so much snow in '73. It was probably like the gas shortage.
Yeah, those things are easy to confuse. What if the highways were shut down? What would you do? How would you utilize that space?
Oh, if I could go on that space, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go near it.
You
I
just
would
leave it.
Leave it.
Let nature reclaim it.
Yeah, I would just sit at home, drink brewskis.
What would you do if there's an oil crisis? Would you buy an electric car?
No, I would just deal with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at in life. I'm just dealing. I'm not happy.
That's what men do. Just deal
I'm
with
not
it.
sad. I'm just dealing. I'm just getting through the day.
Also on November 4th, Chicago center Stan Mikita registers his 1,000th NHL career point in the Blackhawks' 5-3 loss to the Minnesota North Stars at the Met Center, Bloomington, Minnesota, then promptly announces plans for a donut restaurant chain.
Adam Z. Fuck the Blackhawks, baby.
Who do you like?
Blues all the way.
Can you name one player on the Blues?
Brett Hull.
Can you name a second player on the Blues?
Curtis Joseph
Can you
did.
name a third player on the Blues?
Yes, I can.
You don't have to say it. You said you can. Right?
Tony Twist.
Tony Twist. Yeah, and a fourth player.
Oh God, what's his name?
I feel like you just asked me to.
Guy Bear.
And that's it. And I will. You know what? I'm going to ask you for a fifth one.
Michel Mongeau.
Oh, they allow ladies on the team now. That's great. Or is he from Gay Japan?
He's from Gay Japan.
Stan Mikita Donuts was featured in the Wayne's World movie. Do you remember that? You ever see Wayne's World?
I never watched it all the way through.
Okay. Have you ever heard of what's
Celine
the,
Dion?
Yeah. You ever heard of Celine Dion?
Yep.
What's the donut? Tim Hortons. You ever heard of that?
Yes, because I have people that live in like Portland, and I know that's a big thing there.
It's a Canadian chain that's
and they
bled down to America.
and they have like these weird, like you can get a donut with like Captain Crunch fruit berries on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're not talking about Voodoo Donuts.
Oh, my bad. Never mind.
I've been there too. Yeah, the Voodoo Donut's a pretty wild place. November 8th, Millennium 73, a festival hosted by Guru Maharajaji at the Astrodome, is called by its supporters the most significant event in human history. It is a festival hosted by Prem Nawat, who then was known as Guru Maharaji, a 15-year-old guru and leader of the fast-growing new religious movement. It was a 3-day event held on November 8th to November 10th in 1973 at the Astrodome by the Divine Light Mission. Organizers billed the festival as an event that would usher in 1,000 years of peace. So a cult?
A cult. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, he's talking about a cult.
What's the difference between a cult and a religion, you think? Like 1,000 years?
1,000 years. I also think that a cult has one supreme leader who's alive.
Okay.
And yeah.
In religion, it's based on faith of an entity.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. I've never thought
David Koresh.
Entity. No, cult.
Cult, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I'll edit that up.
Thank you.
2614. Okay.
You know, it's funny. His name is David Koresh. And then what were his followers called? Do you remember?
Koreshians?
No. The branch...
Davidians.
Davidians. Isn't that weird to take your name? What would it be for Blake if you had followers? What would that be called? It's tough to say.
It's tough to say. You know what? I'm going to let them choose what they want to be named.
And that's what a true leader would do.
Thank you. High five that shit.
I don't know about you, but I am safely and securely back in the mindset of 1973. Why did we choose to watch the Norliss tapes?
There's 3 simple criteria. First, it was a pilot that never went to series. Yeah. Whether it was aired or not is irrelevant. We've watched some that were aired. We watched some that weren't. Number 2, we had to find it on the interwebs. Mm-hmm. Well, Jason had to find it on the interwebs. Yeah. And number 3, baby, it had to be free. Awesome! And just to let everybody know that, yes, we did do Condor, and you could not watch that for free. But I
disagree, because I think you get a free trial period of Amazon if you don't already have it. So I would say...
You're super defensive.
Well, I would say waste your free trial on watching Condor.
Okay.
That's what I would say. So you might be asking yourself, though, is the Norliss tapes on Amazon? And the quick answer is no. And in fact, you can find the entire episode of the Norliss tapes by subscribing to Couch Pilots and SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app of choice, and then simply click on one of our classically blue links in our show notes, or go to YouTube.
And you know what to do, YouTube? I wish you would just put punctuation in there.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
If I want your suggestion, I'll ask for it. All right?
Amen.
Amen to you.
Amen.
And also,
I see your it's flannel season.
Yeah. Oddly enough, and when I drove here, it was 72 degrees. It was still very nice.
Well, when the sun goes down.
It's going to be chilly when I leave. Summary of the pilot. An investigative reporter stumbles onto an artist that has made a pact to come back after his death to sculpt a statue of a demon using human blood and clay. Once the demon is awakened, he will be granted immortality.
I'm going to give it a B+.
Human blood, clay.
B+, for sure.
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Maybe I think a good summary is just like a sentence and maybe just like a sentence and a half. And this was about it.
Yeah. Not too long.
Not too short. Did you say not too long or not too yawn? Interesting facts.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interesting Facts. This is the part of the show where Jason has scoured the internet to find facts about this show that you may not know. You probably never heard of it before, but you're going to deep dive right here. Please don't taint anyone else's experience. Keep your comments about these facts to yourself. Here's a new one for you. I got a new one. Play on, playa. Jason, give it to us.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
Got something new at the end there.
Yeah. Play on, player.
I think we're going to be hearing that every week going forward for a very, very long time. This movie was intended as a pilot for a TV series of the same name. Fact.
Fact.
Aired February 21st, 1973 on WNBC. Fact.
Why did you give us facts about November of 73 when this came out in February?
It's weird that you asked that because you've never made that connection before.
Oh, it's the whole year? You picked the whole year to find stuff? I thought it was always the same time frame.
No.
No.
It's November right now. This show is being released in November.
Okay.
So I take a look at the year that the show was released.
And then the time that we're in.
That's how I do it.
Okay.
I can do it more specifically that way.
No, that's fine. I just
Like this week and next week are already planned out. But for the shows that you're on beyond that, do you want me to go ahead and do it the way you just suggested?
No, you be you.
Okay.
You be you, buddy.
Originally written under the working title Demon, the Norliss tapes was adapted from a story by Fred Mustard Stewart. Writer William Nolan said that he took Stewart's basic premise of a Walking Dead man and adapted it into a teleplay that was mostly made up of his own ideas. Fact. Directed by Dan Curtis, known as the producer and director of Dark Shadows.
Oh.
Fact.
I have a story about Dark Shadows, too.
Hold on. Let me do a quick pause and interesting facts. Okay. I knew that you would like that. Because I remember us years ago talking about Dark Shadows.
Yeah,
Please.
so I used to work at Zeller Mental Health Center, which was a place that housed mentally ill people. Mm-hmm. And we had a gentleman there, Alan, and he was obsessed with Dark Shadows. He had like postcards that you could buy. He had scripts, and he loved Dark Shadows. And when I left that job after like 4 years, my last day, Alan gave me it was like not an 8x10, but it was of the main character.
Barnabas
Collins.
Yeah.
Blake, have you ever watched Dark Shadows?
That's how he talks?
Yeah. Oh, yes. He loved Dark Shadows. Barnabas Collins was amazing. But he gave me this like postcard.
Do you still have it?
No.
Fuck it.
On the back of it, he said, he signed it like, thanks for everything you do, Alan. It was cool, but he was very obsessed with it. And I think maybe I've tried to like watch it and haven't like made it through a whole episode.
You know how many episodes they did?
They did quite a few.
Well, what is your guess on a number?
37.
It's over 1,000.
Okay.
So I saw that and I was like, oh my God, it must have been like a soap opera. It must have been on Monday through Friday.
It was like a soap opera, yes, for sure.
And so that once I knew that, I was like, soap operas, by and large, all have the same kind of melodramatic feel.
Right.
So as soon as I saw that they had over 1,000 episodes, it's like 1,100 something. And I was like, oh my God. So that was on Monday through Friday. And I was like, I immediately now know the tone of that show. Before I wasn't sure. The most I knew about it was seeing the trailer for the Johnny Depp incarnation of it in the film series.
Oh, no, but yeah, I remember Alan. Alan was eccentric. I would say eccentric.
I feel like you got his voice right. Not knowing him at all, I can hear that voice.
He was also very obsessive. Mm-hmm. And he was one of those guys that he would be fine and be able to deal with stuff to a certain extent until it came to be with his stuff. You know what I mean? Like if somebody had went into his room or whatever, and the dude would lose his shit. Mm. But he was somebody that was never going to leave. He was never going to leave. And
one of God's many, 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 many mistakes, right?
Well, when you make a batch of salsa, not every time does it work.
Sometimes you got to cut out the stems and the seeds. Yeah. Throw them in the garbage, and then, sometimes they're burnt. Sometimes you electrocute them. Sometimes
I might still have that.
Bury it in the backyard.
I just don't know where it's at. I might still have it.
You should get it. And I believe that to be the story you told years ago.
Yeah,
too.
And I really think now that you think about it, I'm gonna have plenty of time on my hands pretty soon. I probably should probably find it for free on the internet and watch some episodes. I mean, I've seen clips and it's just slow. It's very slow, very dramatic, very cumbersome.
It's not fast action in 1,100 episodes. I tell you that right now.
Like my sex life.
Oh, high five it. Back to interesting facts.
Sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
The courthouse or Court Estate / house. I should say it like that because otherwise it sounds like I'm saying courthouse. But Court was the last name of the people in the show. Is also the location of where the vampire Catherine hides at the end of episode 4 of the TV series Kolchak the Night Stalker, aired October 4th, 1974, a series that also started out as a Dan Curtis production. Fact.
You can't dispute it. Just
sometimes locations are too good not to just use once.
it's all about location.
Sandwiches. Location.
Burritos.
Stars Roy Thins as David Norliss, known for his work in Airport 1975, The X-Files, and A Beautiful Mind. Fact.
In fact, do you know you'll see the sheriff in here is very familiar too. Do you have any facts on the sheriff? He looked familiar to me.
I get that. Yeah, he feels familiar. I couldn't place him though. We can look into it.
No, it's,
we won't. You know what? We won't. We won't look into it. The pilot was shot in San Francisco and Monterey, California. Fact. The film was later released on DVD for the first time by Anchor Bay Entertainment in 2006, licensed by 20th Century Fox. In the 2000s, the film underwent a brief revival on the cult movie circuit with theatrical screenings in such locations as Toronto, New York, and Los Angeles. Fact.
This is a lot more facts than I thought you would find.
Well, I'm done with the facts, but I do have a goof. Sometimes you have a goof.
Okay.
In the final conflict scene, David Norliss pours blood in a circle around the statue. A few moments later, the circle of blood appears smeared and dried up for no understandable reason. Interesting facts over.
Nice. Good job.
Thanks. Twitter responses.
Twitter responses. I wonder if Jason got some Twitter sandwiches responses.
No. Let's go ahead and put 10 minutes on the clock. And we will go ahead and fire up the complete plot.
No, we're not. We only have 10 minutes.
We're doing we're setting the clock for 25 minutes.
This is an hour and 17 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break it down as best we can. We find out that it starts off, there's some scary, spooky, suspenseful music.
It starts right away.
Yeah. And there's a guy smoking a cigarette on a patio. He's by the ocean. And we come to find out that this is David. And he is a writer. And he has a book due that is about the supernatural, debunking it.
Right.
And his publicist, Sanford, calls him and says, "Hey, how's it going with the book?" He's like, "Man, I haven't written a chapter. I haven't written a page." He's like, "Well, that was a year ago that we agreed to this. We give you all this money." He's like, "Man, I am in the shit."
Because he's afraid.
He's afraid because he's seen things.
He has seen some stuff. Everything he's done in research for the book has been recorded on tapes, apparently. And when David's talking to Sanford on the phone, he sounds very strange and kind of shaken.
Sure. And he's got it, just like in the 70s, he's got a shirt on, long sleeve shirt, but it's unbuttoned all the way down.
Oh, yeah.
His chest is showing. Ooh. He's in his mansion. He's smoking a cigarette. Everything is not good.
He says to Sanford, "Hey, I need to see you right away." He's like, "Well, I got some
busy.
stuff." Yeah,
I'm busy.
He's like, "No, well, tomorrow might be too late, so I need to see you pronto." And so they agree to meet up for lunch, and David does not show to lunch. And then after that, after Sanford was stood up, a week goes by, and he says to like his secretary or something, he's like, "Hey, I have not heard from him."
I wanted to say this. When Sanford is in the restaurant waiting for David to show up,
yes,
he finally sits down, and the guy's like, do you want to order?" And he's like, "No, but get me a phone." And he, out of nowhere, he brings a phone with obviously a cord to a wall somewhere.
I see that occasionally in movies where they'll bring like a nice platter with like a phone on it to the table
right.
from
like,
old. Yeah.
That
was an interesting time. So later, the lawyer confirms that David is missing. So he goes to David's house and he just walks in.
Yeah, it's stormy. You will find throughout this whole pilot, it is raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, it's a very wet pilot.
So it's hashtag wet pilot.
Do it.
So Sanford goes to his mansion right on the ocean or whatever beach, and just walks in, and he's just roaming around. And you also find out, although it's raining through this whole pilot, nobody walks into the house wet.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Nobody walks into the house wet.
He's unable to find David in the house, but he does find his tapes. And then Sanford kind of makes himself comfortable. And he starts to listen to the tapes. And it's David narrating ideas for his book.
And when he's narrating, it's very authorish. It's very there's a lot of adjectives. It's very dramatic.
He sounds like he's dictating his book. Like, this is exactly how the book would go.
He said dictating.
High five that shit.
Cha-ching.
Then David starts telling a story, and then we see the story play out. So basically what we see is it fade away from Sanford and go right. It's like we're seeing the story being told, and there is a lot of narration throughout this that is done by David, but it's kind of few and far between. But it does start here, and what we see is a woman awakened at night by her dog barking.
Yeah, and her name is Ellen Court.
Is it Ellen or Helen?
It's Ellen.
It's Ellen? Okay. The dog won't stop barking, so the woman grabs a gun, and she heads outside, and it leads her to a small, what I put as a cabin, but we later found out was a barn converted into a studio.
And this dog barks the whole time. Like, there is about 3 minutes of this dog fucking... It's a German Shepherd. This dog is fucking barking the whole time.
It's pissed.
Almost overly done, in my opinion.
How do you get a dog to bark like that? Carrot in the ass?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But the big end first. You don't go small end, right?
Oh, no. Don't be an asshole.
Don't carrot asshole. Inside, she sees what looks to be a gray man. I don't know if this is a zombie or what it was. And the zombie tosses the dog, and then she shoots the zombie. The zombie flies back. She drops the gun, and she runs outside.
Yeah. And me and Eli were both, disturbed by how the dog was killed. Like, the dog jumps on this zombie and he flings it, and it was a stuffed dog, obviously.
Maybe,
but it was crude for sure. So we get into the story.
Somehow she has heard of David Norliss or something, because she meets up with him because he was recommended as an investigator of the supernatural.
Yeah, which he's a writer, but all of a sudden now he's a PI.
I guess. I mean, there is investigative journalists, I guess. She called the police initially, is what she tells him, and the zombie was gone. And she's like, the zombie was my dead husband, James Court, Jim. And said Jim died from a brain disease, and before he died, he had reached out to some holistic healer who deals in the occult.
Right. We find out there's a ring, and there's an agreement with this ring. There's something about, Jim had gotten this ring from... Madam whatever later on. And so then we are introduced to, I think it's Marcia, the sister, Ellen's sister.
Yes.
And I wrote down, she has a weird voice.
She does have a weird voice.
At the same restaurant as...
Oh, is it?
It's the same restaurant. It's the same restaurant and the same table.
David loves that restaurant. That's his table apparently there, huh?
I guess so. And you'll deal with that for a while. And...
Later that night, we have Millie Parks. She was closing up a retail shop and heading home when there was a cheap cat scare. I don't know if you remember that. It's kind of silly. And then during the car ride, she's attacked by the same zombie in the car. He's been hiding in the car.
And this one, to me, there's a lot of deaths in this. There's a lot of people that die. But this one doesn't make sense to me, like why she was killed. Like the other ones, I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But this one didn't make sense to me.
All the other ones were like deaths of convenience, but there's like
all
two.
All the other ones were like, hey, you're coming to my area or you want something that I have, I'm going to kill you. This one, she was just closing up a shop.
This one, and then Marcia later, when Marcia dies, he went and sought her out almost.
Well, because she had went to the house. You think
so he followed her?
He was threatened. Yeah.
Well, during the car ride, she's attacked, and she's passing a truck, stops, and tries to help, and then it kind of sees that Millie is dead. Yeah, she's in the car crash,
and she's not just dead from a car crash. Her body is really odd. This is where the sheriff comes in. This is the first time we meet the sheriff, and he's like, "Hey," to the truck driver, "don't say anything about the condition of the body."
Yeah, it looks weird. I think they go on to say that. It looks, again, kind of like gray, and that the blood had been drained from the body, and there was strangulation around the neck. They said the body looks odd, more so than usual dead bodies. Let's not make this part of the report. We don't
Sure.
want to put that information out there.
Right.
So the next day, in a golf pro shop, it was a weird thing. The coroner and the sheriff, they kind of talk about this thing, and he gives them all the information what happened. And then they acknowledge the word vampire, which I thought was interesting because it turns out we're not dealing with the vampire. But when you think about loss of blood, you think vampire.
Right.
But we don't know what kind of world we've stepped into with the Norliss tapes.
Right.
Is this a world where vampires are a real thing and zombies are a real thing? It turns out zombies apparently can't happen in this world, but I don't think it's something that the collective world knows.
Right.
It's not like, oh, everyone should know not to go out after dark on certain nights because the zombies are out and the vampires. It's just, but at least like the Walking Dead TV show, they never say the word zombie in that show. So they don't have like a point of reference for what that is.
Right. And so we have some more narration from David. And I wrote, very wordy / fancy writer talk narration. Then we go to Ellen's house again. And David shows up to Ellen's house for the first time. He's like, hey, I'm investigating this for you. What's going on? And she's like, oh, well, I'm here by myself. Everything's kind of trashy now. Mrs. Harrison left. And David's like, you should probably leave too. And what me and Eli both thought about when they described the character of Mrs. Harrison, I was like, oh, that's the next poor lady's going to die.
Is that the case though? It wasn't really.
No, she didn't. It was odd.
What is he?
Everybody that in this whole pilot, everybody that's talked about, focused on, ends up dying.
I guess that is pretty true.
Pretty true.
What is he driving? Is that a Stingray?
No, it's a Corvette.
Is it?
It's a Corvette. It's
It's
Corvette.
featured prominently.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes there's one scene toward the end of the show where he's trying to get back to the court mansion, and you can tell that it's on fast forward.
He does seem to be driving very fast
for wet conditions. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This whole pilot, wet.
Very wet. Hashtag wet pilot. So, yeah, when he's at her house, she's like, yeah, my housekeeper just quit because she's spooked by everything that's going on with my husband dying and then me being attacked and shooting the thing, and it seems to disappear. It's very odd. So the housekeeper had been there forever, quits.
Yeah, we find that the guy is buried
he's in a mausoleum on
the property,
yeah.
which is really weird. And this is what you're going to find for sure is you're going to see this mausoleum quite a few times, and you're going to see the coffin, and you're going to see how easy it is for people to pull back a cement stone cover.
It had to have been on some sort of like
roller.
But I mean, it's not even just that. It's like, oh, you can go right in this graveyard. Oh, you can open this mausoleum and go right in. And you can pull back the top of this coffin. Like it's
very convenient.
The dead rotting body is very accessible.
Right.
So they're and it was kind of funny too. Right when he gets there and they sit down, and they start talking. He's like, you should come back to town with me and get a hotel room. And I was like, whoa,
buddy.
The body's still warm, pal.
I mean, Ellen's good looking, but come on, man.
He asked to see her husband's studio, and this is where the shotgun incident took place. And so Mrs. Court husband was Jim, and then they said he was kind of a recluse guy, and he was a sculptor. And so David investigates the studio, and then there's an odd cut from the studio to the mausoleum, like he said, and then they open Jim's casket, and it's there. And not only is all of it weird how accessible it is, but like as the wife, would you want to see that?
No, and like when they walk in, it's already kind of open. Like it's not like completely closed.
Yeah.
They pull it back, and there he is, dead body guy.
And they show that big blue ring they mentioned.
Big blue ring. It's a beetle ring.
Yeah.
Not Beetlejuice. Beetle ring.
Beetle ring. We hear
Jesus.
Here it comes. We hear a conversation between the two about David requesting her to get more info on the Millie Parks death, the car crash death, and then this conversation we hear between the two of them is as he's heading back to San Francisco.
Sure.
And so he arrives at some sort of fancy pants art gallery, and he meets with Mr. Langdon, who happens to have read one of David's books. So his reputation preceded him,
Sure.
not unlike yours and the women locally.
Thank you.
Langdon, he knew Jim Court a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know much about the occult. I just knew Jim was kind of into it. And David's like, well, you called his wife and was like asking about his ring. He's like, well, it's very rare, and of course I deal in rare things. And Dave's like, well, I know where it's at. He's like, oh, you know where it's at. And then David just goes, oh, it's on his ring. It's on his finger in this mausoleum where you can just pull back and take the ring.
Yeah, they're installing sensors next week, so when you walk near it, it automatically opens for you.
Right. And so come the gallery owner ends up going in the middle of the night where it's raining.
Again.
Goes in there and he tries to get it off of him, and he goes and it's gone, and of course the zombie comes and kills him. Here's an interesting part about this pilot: you never hear anything else about his death after this.
We see him later, but that we don't hear anything about it. We see him at the end,
Well,
but they don't ever.
Those
really
are cut shots.
I think
though.
they mentioned something about
him not being able to get a hold of him,
and that's it.
But yeah, there's. Yeah.
Here's my question. We know what the blue ring does. They mentioned it earlier. Egypt, blue scarab, immortality. Is this guy lying about not knowing much about the occult? Is he going there so he can have immortality with the blue ring, or is he going just to get it and sell it?
It's all about the ching ching bing bing.
You think so?
Yeah, he doesn't want to be immortal. It's all about the ching ching.
He wants to die at an appropriate time.
Well, it's more about the money. He wants money.
Okay.
Money.
So yeah, he's totally attacked by a zombo, but we don't really see what happens until later to him.
And then David goes and sees Madame
Jaquil.
And you know what? To be honest with you, Madame Jaquil, pretty fucking hot.
She's a good-looking lady.
Yeah.
He goes, and she's at like
Not 10 minutes, huh?
Are you keeping track?
I'm just,
you shouldn't be.
Just asking.
You should not be keeping track. That's my job. You do so much for the show the way it is. Let me keep track of the time frame. Madame Jaquil is a procurer and seller of oddities and curiosities and knows, again, a lot about the occult, apparently. And David presses her for information, and she tells him to stay away from the court estate as it is a house for Sarga.
Yes.
And that's not the last time we'll hear that name.
No.
So that later that night, again in the pouring rain, David heads back to Ellen Court's house to go see the studio. And I think Helen is staying at a hotel like he suggested.
Right, but he picked her up at like 11:30, like midnight. He picked her up from this hotel to go back to the house. They go back to the studio, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there is a sculpture that's being made.
They investigated a couple days before, and there was that wasn't there.
And they're like, oh, this wasn't here the other day. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's about 7, 8, 10 feet tall.
It's big, and he says, "Hey, the clay is still damp on this mother.
Yeah.
Someone is currently working on
You
this."
know what I always say? Damp clay, bad clay.
I always say, #wet pilot. That's what I say. And then right when they're like, he's looking at the clay, in busts the zombie.
Yep.
And David
He's back.
shoots him a couple times, and he falls over. But then he's quickly back up and chasing them, and he is fast and purple.
He is very fast, and he's very purple. And they go into the garage.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things also. I was like, they went there in the Corvette. There was no reason why they couldn't get back in the Corvette. They went into this other car. The zombie rips off the door of the car, almost gets Ellen. And,
I thought he was going to get her.
And they hit the zombie twice with the car.
They sure as hell do. Then they go to the local police station. They explained again to that same sheriff that we saw what went down. And it was he's kind of like initially suspicious of what they're telling them. And then he kind of relents and then gets together the police to kind of hunt down or attempt to hunt down this person, this assailant. But I don't think that he fully believes that this is her dead husband up and walking around. So David, the sheriff, and a few others head over to the mausoleum, and they see that Jim's body is missing. And the sheriff is pissed. And he's like, I've had enough of this. My men are going to look around here and go home. I feel like the sheriff would be more pissed if he opened up the casket and saw the body was there. Why would he be pissed when it isn't there? I mean, that doesn't prove anything necessarily, but at least it would prove that he's not a zombie walking around if the body was there. So that didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, Blake's in the bathroom. Let's see. The next day, David is having trouble reaching Langdon and is having the clay examined. For some reason, Ellen's sister is here now. I think I fell asleep while they were having dinner earlier, what we're talking about. Anyway, she goes to the court estate and sees no one's there. And then she goes to the Orange Grove Motel, which is right in town. And I think David is kind of narrating this portion when she first arrives and then decides to go to the motel. Well, the motel is closed because it's midnight. But she starts knocking on the manager's door, which I think are people who just live at the motel. And the guy lets her in because she's a cute young lady. And then he's like, "Hey, I'll give you room number 9. It's $10." I remember I worked at hotels for years.
Never $10.
Oh my
Never.
goodness, what a great deal! As Marsha's getting settled in, she opens the curtains and then sees Jim's big, dumb, beautiful face in the window, and she screams.
He comes through. He crashes.
He flies through the window.
Yeah. Very zombie-esque, right?
He attacks her, and then the manager comes in shortly to see the aftermath.
Yep, calls the sheriff. Sheriff comes out. So then we cut to Madame Jacques, right?
Yeah,
And
I think so. Hold on.
Her and Ellen are they go back to Madame Jacques comes and says, "Hey, Ellen, I'm tired of this curse or whatever." So they go, and there's all these underground tunnels and everything they find out.
Yeah, David somehow looked into the history of the house.
And David also becomes a scientist with a lot of beakers.
And he says the clay is 45% human blood.
Which, obviously, every clay should be 45% blood.
I think if you want to do it right.
Right. Because we find out is the curse or the reason why he has that ring on, the agreement he made is he's going to make a sculpture of the Sarga the demon, and once he does that, then he'll have eternal life, blah, 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 yakety yakety. So Ellen and her decide, hey, we're two ladies, let's go to this place that keeps causing problems. We're going to go try to find Jim's body, because if we find it before dark, we can take the ring off his finger.
While he's still, like, sleeping.
Right.
And then when night hits, the ring will be off, and he won't be able to get awake. So they head down to the mausoleum for an entrance, to look for an entrance of the aforementioned tunnels, and they find it, head into it, and then meanwhile David's kind of being like, "Oh, I can't get a hold of them. They're together. I need to go hunt them down." So he races.
Yeah, this is when they have the fast forward of him on slick blacktop, and also for some reason there's a car slowing him up.
It's just to add to suspense,
and
it does nothing.
It goes back and forth. We don't find it. It's not somebody.
Maybe in the future, if they made more episodes, it would be revealed to be something.
Thank you.
But it's there's no reason for that to happen.
Yeah. So Mademoiselle, whatever, she ends up being attacked by the zombie. Ellen, of course, gets away. Ellen and David go back to the studio. They see the sculpture, and all that's left to be done is the eyes. So this sculptor, who is a zombie, he's been working on this. It's 8 or 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he leaves it with just the eyes that need to be done. So
maybe he ran out of blood for the clay.
Or maybe he ran out of time because of daylight.
That's true, too.
So they hide. Jim the zombie comes back. He brushes the clay like twice and then starts going abba-ji-ba-ba-doo-ba and all the and all of a sudden the sculpture comes to life. But before that, you should mention the blood thing.
I should have.
I apologize.
My mistake.
No, that's my mistake.
I think it was something that he was working on in his lab, which apparently he's, like you said, a chemist too.
He was working in the lab late one night when he had to find a way to kill the statue made of clay.
He put, I don't know if it's blood or something. He creates a blood circle, and it's like as soon as the stuff starts to happen, we'll light it on fire, and that should stop him.
It's a ring of blood, and you can go in it, but once it catches on fire, you can't leave it.
And so they go in it. The thing awakens. He lights it on fire. And David and Ellen escape as everything else is seemingly consumed by the flames. And then the police and firemen arrive, and the bones of Jim were found, they said, but nothing of the demon.
Yeah, and the burning building, footage of the burning building goes on a long time.
It does. And then we go back to the dude from the beginning, Sanford. The guy's looking for an answer to David's disappearance, and he puts in the next cassette, Chapter 2.
Ah, there you go. Cliffhanger. Oh, wow, that was 10 minutes on the spot. Wow, we did great.
Please remain seated.
Hey, great job.
Turbulence.
Jesus Christ, indeed. Turbulence, my goodness. Do you have something you want to share there?
No, I just had some notes.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I have notes for the rest of the show.
Go ahead.
No, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. New president.
We've covered some of that. The show didn't work. I don't. To me, this is almost like early X-Files.
Yeah, I would say so.
This is supernatural stuff happening in investigative, right?
But what you don't realize until the end is, like, we've watched a lot of pilot movies that are like an hour and a half long, like this one, that at the end you're like, well, how would this continue? Mm-hmm. But they set it up perfectly, and to be honest with you, I was kind of like at the end of it, I was like, oh, that's kind of smart how they did that. Chapter 2, right? This is just we're watching a guy at the beginning who is really deep into it, right? And he's like, oh, I've been working on this. And you're like, oh, this is just one story. But, like, there's tapes. There's more tapes.
There's a lot of tapes.
There's more tapes.
There are more tapes.
Hashtag wet pilot.
Wet pilot, yeah. Why didn't the show work, though? Should they have used 8 tracks instead? Should it have been called the Norliss 8 tracks?
No, I think at this time in the 70s, like, to have a primetime long show about the occult, it's not nearly as interesting as a lot of people are into the occult now. I think it was, there's a lot of like jump scares and stuff for 73.
Is it too spooky? Was it too gruesome for prime time?
I that's what I would say. Yes, it was too intense.
The 1970s was ripe with the occult. We've seen a couple of shows, just failed pilots of failed occult stuff. People had a fascination with the devil, comedic or not. There's that Sammy Davis Jr. one, right? Where Poor Devil, right? Where the devil was in the show.
Yeah,
the devil was a character. It was a funny show.
The devil was on his way.
Yeah. Down, down, down.
Devil is on his way. The devil is on his way. The devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. The devil gonna make you pay. Motherfucker, he's on his way. Joe Buck yourself.
Hey, Buck you, pal. If this were to go forward, like you said, it's kind of set up to where we have
to give it credit. The setup is better than a lot of the made-for-TV movies or set up.
Some do leave pretty open doors to go forward, but this made it very obvious how it would continue, but not necessarily what we would see. If this continued, what would you like to see? Would you like to see more of the same story? Is Helen in the next chapter? Is Ellen in the next chapter? Would he continue with these people in this story? Would he move on to a different case?
I would assume that he's going to move on to a different case. I mean, I would think that you've already explained the story. You already know why. So he's going to go deeper and deeper every chapter. He's going to get more and more engulfed in it to where by chapter 12, he is, lighting crosses and burning them or whatever.
I think that this is. I think the more I think about it, it is more and more X-Files because
it's like Quantum Leap, but like a little bit of horror.
I want to not have all of these things be supernatural. Like he's spooked because he's uncovering it, but how can one man stumble over and over again and again every single week into something that's different supernatural wise? When you look at X-Files, some of the episodes it turned out to be, we can explain it with this. This is something that happened. It seemed to be supernatural. It was not. But some were like, oh no, this is we have an alien. We see an alien. So it was a mixed bag where you weren't always getting mind-blowing discoveries week after week. Right. It was more about the story and the characters.
But the show Supernatural, each week these two brothers encountered supernatural beings every single episode, and it was on for a long time.
That, I guess, kind of engulfs or debunks my theory. And that is the, I think the one that what is it? What do you call it? The one that it proves it. The
right one answer.
Whatever. It's that show's on for like 12, 14 years. That's insane.
In the membrane.
I've never seen an episode, but it's an anomaly.
I love anomalies, but not as much as
Ladies
you
and gentlemen,
see.
as we start our descent, please make sure your seat backs and tray tables are in their full upright position.
Bing bong. This is a rare Rotten Tomatoes score that we've got for this because this is the part of the show where we say, hey, other people have seen the Norliss tapes and they've rated it and they've reviewed it. And Rotten Tomatoes took an accumulative score of 33% by the audience. And I don't know, I foolishly look at Rotten Tomatoes every time. I have a very low hit ratio there. Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
The show. IMDb, Internet Movie Database score, 1 out of 10. What do you think people from around the world rated the Norliss tapes?
And decimal points are always in place for IMDb.
Correct.
I'm going to have to say a 6.5.
Mm-hmm. This is a 6.4 from
Must
1,000.
have changed.
What does that mean? What do you mean it must change? 1,116 ratings.
That's a lot. That is like way above and beyond what we've experienced a lot of times.
Absolutely, it's on the high end. Critic reviews. The magazine Variety said Curtis directed the film with an eye to tension and that he manages. The idea behind Nolan's script was validity with his open dependency on the supernatural. The basic thrust to scare is what counts, and there Nolan, Curtis, Thins, and company succeed. The Hollywood Reporter also praised the film, calling it a lot of fun with a new twist on the old vampire story. Which it's, I don't know if it's, maybe it was a vampire,
Yeah.
maybe not, I don't know.
It was a zombie, for sure.
Maitland McDonough of TV Guide also praised the film, calling it a creepy, handsomely shot boogie tale that holds up surprisingly well.
Diane Wahlberg.
Thank you. And in television fright films of the 1970s, critic Dan Deal called the Norliss tapes one of the lesser entries in the Dan Curtis canon, faulting it for its over-reliance on dialogue, shallow characterization, unimpressive monster, and too much shorthand logic. Viewer reviews. With over 1,000 ratings, you can bet that there's a lot of viewer reviews. I'll read some of the titles here. This movie scared the heck out of me when I was little. 9 out of 10 scars. Yikes, one of the greats. Excellent Roy Fiennes movie in the same class as Night Stalker. 8 out of 10 scars. A great movie. One of the best movies of the 1970s. 10 out of 10 scars.
You ever seen Star Wars?
Have you?
Yeah, I've seen Star Wars.
10 out of 10, chiller that producers forgot. 5 out of 10 scars, rare, but is it worth tracking down a copy? 10 out of 10 scars, I love this movie. It's super scary, spooky, and eerie. We'll read just a couple more. 5 out of 10 scars, paging Kolchak, which I believe is something else that Dan Curtis has done. Okay. 6 out of 10 scars, well, it was scary in the 70s. And finally, excellent made-for-TV film.
Wow, so overall, it's a lot of positive reviews overall.
Overwhelmingly pretty positive.
I like how people rate this podcast. Overwhelmingly positive.
I don't know if that's true. Do you think it's true?
I don't know.
When's the last time you looked at our ratings?
Just to let everybody know. Oh, ratings or downloads?
Yes.
Downloads, by the time this comes out, will be at 50,000 downloads.
Wow, that's like 3 downloads an episode. Not bad. Congratulations.
High five that shit.
Boom. All right.
We should get some kind of plaque for 50,000.
My dentist said
No plaque?
no plaque.
I had to have my crown put on the other day.
Oh, congratulations. King Blake, the crowned.
And they said,
Yes, Your Majesty. Tell us about your teeth.
he said, this is the second time I've put this on. I go, yeah. He goes, it's broke. You need a new one. And I go, slap that glue on there, buddy. We got shit to
What's
do.
broke? The tooth is broken?
No, the crown is
Just the
broke.
crown? What did you get, like a nice crown jewel in it?
Yeah. I've got a 14-karat gold diamond.
Gold diamonds are the best. Smart stuff. Hey, how would we rate this? What's the rating scale?
We're going to rate this on a 1 to 7 scale, 1 being the worst and 7 being the best. And we're taking characters from the show Wings, which is one of the best television shows ever made. Number 1 is a Roy Biggins, and that's the worst. And number 7 is the best. That's a Brian Hackett.
And what are all the ones in the middle there?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do this. Number 1, Roy Biggins. Number 2 is Faye Yetten. Number 5 is Antonio Scarpacci. Number 4 is Luther Vandross. Where are we at now? 3?
Yeah.
3. Helen Chappell. And number 2 is Brian Hackett's brother. And number 7 is Brian Hackett.
I think you went from 2 to 7. I don't know.
I said 1 was Buddy Hackett.
Yeah, I don't think you did that right. Maybe you need a vacation. Captain Philip, rest assured, I turn to you. How do you rate the Norliss tapes?
It was long, but we have watched a lot of long stuff from the 70s. They do drag it out. The narration, to me, is kind of condescending in regards to how like foo-foo he is. But we have never watched one with some jump scares. Like there was a couple of like jump scares on this. I like the occult. I like Corvettes. There's a lot of hot chicks in this. Did I like it? No. Did I hate it? No.
Did you love it?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
Give it a 4. Right down the middle.
Yep. I've seen worse. Eli watched it with me.
What was his rating? You know,
I didn't ask.
Probably like a 10 or something.
Well, no, he wasn't. He was on his phone, but yet watching at the same time. How do you get your daughter off the phone?
I don't.
You just let it go? Do you just
because otherwise she's gonna get angry at me.
Okay.
And I'd rather have her have long-term negative effects from being on her phone all the time, but be nice to me, than her to grow up and be a well-adjusted human being, but be pissed at me in the interim.
I hear you.
And I hear you.
What do you rate?
Okay, thank you. The version of this visually wasn't super duper. The quality of the video was not great. It was okay.
It wasn't bad.
I like the characters in this. I think that these characters made logical, smart choices. They weren't stupid characters doing dumb things. I thought Mr. Thines, who played David Norliss, I felt like he was confident without being cocky. I didn't think he was a jerk. I think he was being an investigative reporter.
And he had his shirt unbuttoned all the time.
I was going to give it an unbuttoned bump. There were some jump scares here.
Yeah.
The monster didn't look great, but who cares? It doesn't have to look great. It's 1973. They knew back then. They're like, we're in 1973. Some things suck right now.
Right.
Just wait till 2020. And maybe a show will talk about us and give us some propers. And I'm going to give them some propers. And I'm going to give it... I think I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, that's good.
I enjoyed it. I didn't look at the TV a bunch and hope that it was almost over. I think this could be 10 episodes a season.
Were you shocked by the ending where he's like, chapter 2? Like that? Were you surprised at how they wrapped it up to continue it? Because to me that was a big surprise.
I don't think it was a big surprise for me. I think it was a good idea. It sounds like you liked that, and I like it too. I agree with you that it was good, but I felt like there was a lot of tapes here. And if the show's called the Norliss Tapes, you're going to probably have a lot of fucking tapes. You know what I mean? So I did like that part too, where it's like, oh, we'll listen to the next one. I'd like to think 10 episodes. Maybe it's a limited run series. Maybe it's 2 seasons of 10 episodes. Maybe we find out a little bit more in each episode what happened to David, or point us in the direction of what may have happened next. I'd like to have these be all different things that he investigates, and maybe there's a very loose connection to all of them.
Sure.
It gets them to a final answer, right. That there is something larger happening in play, some sort of force out there that is guiding these things. But overall...
Like a light?
Some sort of light that guides folks. That there's got to be a better way to put that.
Yeah.
I would give it a 6. You give it a 4. And with that, we close the book on the Norliss Tapes, and we'll never mention that TV show again. But join us next time, won't you please, when we watch the pilot episode of DOOZY BOTZ. Here's a little something to whet your whistle. The first attempt to bring Mobile Suit Gundam to North America. You can find the entire episode of DOOZY BOTZ by subscribing to Couch Pilots and SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app of choice, and then simply click on one of our classically blue links in our show notes, or go to YouTube, and you know what to do, tube.
Nice.
I've been working on lung capacity.
Yeah, I was going to say lung capacities.
You know, I
know there's two things you're working on.
One.
Lung capacity.
Two.
And your flannel outfits.
Trying to beef it up. I got one of those little sewing machines. I'm going to add a lot of sequins going forward.
Oh, bling. They call it bling.
So the next time we meet to do the show, you'll get to see all the different sequins.
Like a rhinestone flannel boy.
Bow, bow.
When it becomes November, he's a rhinestone flannel boy.
Bow, bow.
Hitting the guys in the butt all the time.
Okay. Yeah, find us at couchpilotspodcast.com. All of our episodes are there. It's free. When you use that site to listen to shows, it's weird. It's not built for it. It does it, but it's not convenient like a podcast app. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
But they're all there.
But they all are there. They're free.
None of the other podcast app, they're not all there. iTunes, they're not all there.
Yeah.
Spotify, they're all there.
Yeah. So, yeah, check us out, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on our website, couchpilotspodcast.com. You can find our Twitter and our Facebook there. Like us, retweet us, follow us. If you do that, you'll get frequent flyer points, and you're also going to see kind of what's coming down the pipe, because we record these a little bit ahead of time.
Sure.
And I reach out to the people who are involved in these and hopefully get some Twitter responses, but you'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And then if you really like us, you can go to patreon.com, search Couch Pilots, and give us some money, because we like money.
Oh, yeah. It's what makes the world go round, right?
And it helps us pay for doing the show.
Sure.
I mean, give us $1 a month. Like
If
who the fuck are you that you can't give me $1
right
every month?
I think if you've listened to this show, if you've laughed a couple times, if you've enjoyed it, if you're subscribed to it, hey, $1 a month. I mean, you can't even feed an African homeless child for $1 a month.
Yeah.
So what better way to do it?
They say for a price of a cup of coffee. Guess what? That price of a cup of coffee's gone up, pal.
Yeah,
It's way up.
And that price of a cup of coffee every day. We're just saying a price of a cup of coffee for a whole month.
We're talking about that little bit of coffee at the bottom that's all backwash, one time a month.
Yeah, that's all we're asking.
That's all we ask. That's not a lot.
Hey, Trump's gone. Just you have $1. You have $1.
Yeah, Trump's
Do
not
it.
taking all your money now. I have at least one friend that I found out was like a staunch Republican.
I found
No, two.
Well, and you're not on Facebook, but
Right.
On Facebook, I found out there was a lot of people in my life that were Trump supporters, and like hardcore, and I was like, oh, that seems odd. Like their daily life doesn't seem to adapt to that, and I was like, and that's fine, whatever. But I was like, I'm kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, I think that there's people who are like hardcore Trump supporters, and these are the people with the flags and the shirts, and they're really out there touting it. And then there are also people who are just like, I'm a Republican, I vote Republican,
Right.
And I support the Republican Party and their ideals overall. Whether
They support the party, not the person.
no matter who the person is that's running or in power. And then there are also people who are like, it's like, who did you vote for? And they're like, I voted for Trump. And like they're almost ashamed
Right.
to admit it. But I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen like a Bill Clinton or Barack Hussein Obamacare flag in the back of someone's truck. It's really bizarre, like the bravado and the negative patriotism that Trump has brought out in people.
I saw, and this really shocked me, a person that I know pretty well, and she is a lesbian, and I know for a fact that she voted for Donald Trump, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like,
Traditionally,
it does not make
that doesn't
sense.
line up, but they're out there.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro, very popular pundit, a Jewish guy, Republican. Yeah. And you'd think, black people, gay folk, Jewish, they usually lean more liberal, more left. They're or Democrats. Not always the case. It never encompasses everyone. There would be people who would surprise you in your life, and mine too, I'm sure, that support someone. And I always say, why do you support them? And there's never a great answer. I was talking, you know Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yeah.
like child sex island.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone. I said, "Who did you vote for?" And they said, "I voted for Donald Trump." It's like, what about those pictures with like Jeffrey Epstein? He's probably fucking some kids, right?
Right.
And they're like, "No, it's like girls, like 18-year-old girls." Like, but yeah, these. Not only is it not 18-year-old girls, it's young girls, and they're on an island.
They can't leave.
What the fuck?
Yeah. One girl actually like tried to swim away from an island.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And this is the last episode of Couch Polish, #Pilot.
Hashtag Pollet, is that what you said?
Politics.
I'm not sure that's what came out of their mouth. Call us at 910-PILOTS-1, 910-745-6871. Leave us a message, and then we'll play it on the show, and you'll get to hear what your dumb fucking voice sounds like right here on the program.
Yeah, you get frequent fire points.
Absolutely. I think we covered everything. Is there anything that you'd like to mention at the bottom of the show, Fart?
Happy Thanksgiving again. I hope we're under COVID still. If you want to spend time with your family, whatever. Go ahead and do it. You're going to be miserable.
When is it? So 1, 2, 3. Oh, so it's in the 26th. So it's in 3 days.
That's why.
I don't know. I haven't kept keeping track of this.
Well, I do. I keep track of holidays on this show. That's part of my job. One of my many jobs.
You do a great job. And if anything ever happened to where you weren't doing the show anymore, it would really upset me. And I want you to know you do a great job, and I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate what you do as well.
Okay.
Namaste.
Oh, you're gonna stay now? Great.
You don't know what hard times are.
This guy can stay. Do you want to do the outro music? So.
Oh, I thought you were gonna give us a word of positivity. No.
Happy Thanksgiving. That's
okay. Well, that's it then. Hey, this flight is what's this? What do I say?
a shit show.
This pilot may have been rough, but it's always a smooth flight here on Couch Pilots. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Love you, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving.
Shit show, because television show, program, shit show. I should have done something like that. This pilot may have been a shit show.
It's always.
Pilot may have been rough.
It's always sticky and stinky.
Yeah, pilot may have been rough is good, though. I like it. I think I did a good job.
Oh, you always do a good job.
But shit shows, there's something there. Did you come up with that phrase? Did you invent that
no,
phrase?
yeah. I mean, I don't like to step on your fame.
No, please.
You're a phrase maker, but a shit show.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to claim that. Remember Helping Can?
I love Helping Can. I love the Helping Can.
You don't know